Hello. Last week, the Singapore government, through the Ministry of Manpower, released some statements around the requirements for work passes, essentially the ability for a foreigner to work in Singapore. As we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has severely affected Singapore, and while some of its industries are starting to recover, the government is keen to ensure that this recovery is shared in all sectors and indeed is shared by local Singaporeans themselves. There is at the moment the signs of a weak job market, and with unpredictable growth, um, this is why we think the Ministry of Manpower has released these statements. So, to go into the details contained within themselves, principally the first one is the salary requirement. Currently, all employment pass applicants are required to meet certain criteria on application, and this is the same in many different countries. That salary has now been raised to 4,500 Singapore dollars for new applicants. That's going to be applied from the effect of the 1st of September 2020, and for people renewing their employment pass, this will take effect from the 1st of May 2021. This is relatively minor in the kind of broad context of things, but we, for example, do have clients, especially entrepreneurs, who this will make an effect on their cash flow and so it needs to be modelled. Where we're talking about more senior staff, so chief technical officers, etc., it's also been raised as well, and generally that's about double the junior rate of 4,500 Singapore dollars. What's interesting as well is that the actual financial services sector, so this is perhaps relevant for people who are talking about putting VCCs in place. They've actually raised this to Singapore $5,000 for people being employed in those sectors. And this is because Singapore is very focused on building that area and having local applicants trained up and experienced in this. For the S passes, similar changes. From October 2020 this time, the minimum salary is going to be raised to 2,500 Singapore. Again, this is double for more senior staff. And for existing, this will again take place from the 1st of May 2021. So these are things that we need modelling, and when we're doing hiring, we need to consider this. Additional requirements, very much focused on keeping up support on locals. So the ministry will now actually look at what your company has done and have they been supportive of the efforts re the PMETs, which is the professional managers, executives and technicians. Has there been any discrimination against qualified Singaporeans? These are kind of quite ethereal concepts, but what we think is that as well as the data exercises that they go through in analysing the hiring and the firing and the payments being made, which of course they can get all through their CPF records, they're going to look at what you've actually done with staff. So have you promoted people? Have you given pay rises to locals as you have trained them and made them more experienced members of staff? I think the days of having a very senior founder and 3 juniors is gradually going, and the Ministry of Manpower are expecting those juniors to become more senior over time, and we need to start demonstrating that we are investing in the local staff and move them up through the ladder as such. Another point to strongly consider is the advertising requirements are extended for the SP. So basically from 14 days to 18 days, to 28 days. That is a lot longer and will affect the actual hiring process that you put in place. So that's something we really need to consider. As well as that, there is a watch list going on people that employees that they think haven't been treating locals properly or have been discriminating against foreigners, and maybe that involves creating jobs specifically for a foreigner as such. The Ministry of Manpower has identified that through data analytics, and we expect them to increase the quality of data they're getting and so potentially add more firms to their watch list. That's it. Very simple update. 2 main things being the salary and the increase in advertising time. These are vital and you need to strongly consider them in